So we're going to start off our sunflower by making the petals, and I have a dahlia cutter and veiner here. I've linked all of the tools that I've used in this tutorial in the description. I'm going to start off just by rubbing some white vegetable fat onto my veining board. I'm using the 2 left-hand veins to roll out 2 petals at a time. And I've got some homemade flower paste here which I've coloured to a very pale yellow. Just going to take a small amount of paste to begin with and roll this out over the 2 left-hand veins. I want the petals to be really nice and thin. Now using my dahlia petal cutter, I'm going to cut out 2 petals. Now I'm taking some 26 gauge wire. I'm going to dip the end into some egg white, wipe off the excess and insert into the vein to a depth of about 15 millimeters, and then I'll give the petal a bit of a pinch at the bottom. Then place them vein side down on your flower pad. Dust with a bit of corn flour to prevent sticking, and then using my large ball on my ball tool, I'm just going to stretch out the petal slightly and thin the edges. Now I'll line them up in my veiner so that the tip of the petal lines up with the end of the veiner. Press it in. Then we're going to add one extra detail with our Dresden tool. So I've got the narrow end of my Dresden tool here, and I'm just going to run a couple of lines either side of the centre down the petal. Then I'll give each petal a little bit of a pinch at the bottom and the tip to give it a bit of shape, and I'll lie it onto my foam drying pad to give it a bit of movement and shape. So then you want to repeat this to make a total of around 26 petals. This will vary depending on the size of your sunflower centre, but for this tutorial I've created 26. Once your petals have firmed up completely, we can add a little bit of colour using some edible dust colours. So I'm starting off just with a bit of yellow at the base of the petal, and I'm going to dust this on both the front and the back of the petal. Then I'm going to soften this burgundy colour with a little bit of corn flour, and I'm going to brush up from that bottom yellow part and fade the colour up the petal. I want to keep some of that sort of pale creamy yellow at the tip of the petal, so I'm not dusting all the way up. I'm trying to get a bit of a streakiness to the colour as well. And again, I'm going to do the same on the back. I'll then repeat this with the remaining petals so that they're all dusted in the same way. Once all of my petals are dusted, I'm just going to trim down the length of this wire to a measurement of about 2 centimetres. Now to make our centre, I'm just going to rub some white vegetable fat onto my board, and then I've got some brown flower paste here which I've just given a bit of a knead, and I'm just going to roll it out to a thickness of around 1 centimetre. Then I'm going to take a round cutter which is about the same size as the length of a petal, and I'm going to cut out using my cutter to create a disc shape. Now taking your ball tool, we just want to create a bit of a ring indent into the centre So I'm just pressing down to create this sort of ring indent. Keep working at it until you've got a noticeable indent, and then I'm creating a little dimple in the centre as well. Now I'm taking a number 2 nozzle and I'm just going to create some little indents using the nozzle in a sort of spiral direction. As you can see, I'm not going beyond the indent. We're going to add a separate texture with some scissors for the outer part. So just keep pressing with the nozzle, working your way around until you fill that inner indent. Now I'm going to take some small embroidery scissors and I'm going to cut some random snips around this outer ring. So I'm cutting into it to create quite a large tear, and we're going to keep going around to create that texture all the way around the outside. Now to add some colour to the centre, I'm just going to dust in a mixture of this chestnut brown and black. Whilst our centre is still soft, we're going to insert the petals. So I'm just taking one petal at a time, inserting into the egg white, wiping off the excess, and then inserting them into a circle around the centre. Each petal is going to sit next to the previous petal, leaving enough space that they just sit nicely alongside each other. You can pick your petals depending on their shape, so you can have some varying shapes going around. If any are extra curved, they may want to sit on the second layer. Keep adding the petals all the way around until you create a nice full layer. For mine, it's worked out as 11 petals per layer, but this might be different depending on the size of your centre and your petals. And once you've completed that layer, we're then going to insert a second layer sat behind but in between the layer before. Again, whilst the centre is still soft, we're going to add a wire to it. So I've taken a 20 gauge wire here, which I'm just bending into a loop. We want it to be a nice large loop. And then I'm going to just twist the loop to the side so that we have this ski pole shape. So I'm just taking some green floral tape now, and I'm going to tape my 20 gauge wire to an 18 gauge stem to give us a nice sturdy and slightly thickened stem. Now dip your hooked end into some egg white, wipe off the excess, and we're going to insert this into the middle of the back of the centre. Now I'm taking a ball of brown paste, which is roughly the size of the back of the centre, brushing it with some egg white, and I'm going to press this down over the wire and press it in to secure it against the back of the centre. Try and smooth it and blend it if you can, but we're also going to add a calyx, which is going to hide the seam of this as well. Now if any of your centres got slightly flattened, we can just take our scissors and just pull out some of these textured bits as well. Once the centre and the back of the sunflower have had a chance to firm up, we're now going to add a calyx. So I'm just rubbing some white vegetable fat onto my board, and I'm going to roll out some green flower paste. I'm going to roll it out to the thickness of about 2 millimeters. Then I'm going to cut out with a large daisy cutter and a medium daisy cutter. Place them onto your flower pad, dust with a bit of corn flour, and I'm going to use my ball tool just to slightly widen each of these sepals. Now I'm going to pinch the tips of each of the sepals to a point. Then flip the calyx over and just widen slightly each of the sepals with your ball tool again. Then I'm going to repeat this process with the smaller calyx. Now we're ready to attach them to the back of the sunflower, so I'm just brushing egg white all over the calyx, and we're going to feed it down the wire and position it so that it covers any of the back of that sunflower so we can't see any of the seams. Give it a good press to make sure it's all stuck down firmly, and then take the smaller calyx and we're going to repeat the process with this one. The second calyx is going to sat just slightly offset from the first. Now we're just going to dust in some medium green all over the calyx. Leave your flower to dry completely overnight. Once your flower is completely dry, you can adjust any petals if you wish, or you can simply finish the stem. If you wish to thicken your stem, you can tape in some gardener's tie, or if you want to keep it as it is, especially if it's going on a cake, you may want to keep your stem a bit slimmer. So simply bend it into position just by taking a slight curve at the top of the stem. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, give it a like, subscribe and share with your friends. And for all of the tools used, just check the Botanical Cake Studio blog.